everybody. It is Lee Milteer, the Blonde Warrior, here at Grassroots Warrior Network here on Rumble. Everybody notice at the bottom of our screen, we do have this ability for you to like, comment, and share. Please do that. Also, you'll notice that you can subscribe to our network, and do keep in mind that all of us are volunteers. We're all volunteering our time to help bring solutions to you. So if you could subscribe or donate, that would be very fantastic. Today, I have with us someone I really admire. I have worked with for many times, actually. He's interviewed me. I've interviewed him. He is Tony Rubleski. And he is the president of the Mind Capture Group. He's the creator of the best-selling Mind Capture book series. And you'll see Volume 1 and Volume 2. They're very, very good books. It's his 8th book in his series, Positive Disruption. And he is featured in many media outlets, including Toastmaster Magazine, the Detroit Free Press, Fox Television, ABC, CNN, radio, NPR, and Entrepreneur Radio, just to mention a few. Our title today is How to Positively Disrupt Your Mind and Business in a Quickly Changing World. And again, one of the things that his books do, Positive Disruption, is allow you to really, at any time, open the book in any place and get a quote that will perk your day up and focus your attention in a new way. So thank you so much for being with us today, and welcome, Tony. The first question I really had for you, Tony, was you make the case that that basically we all have 9 seconds attention span. So what can we do to fight off doubt and distraction?
Well, the simple answer is there is no simple answer. Like one of my mentors taught me the silver bullet theory. Everyone thinks there's a silver bullet to cure attention. I'm going to give a few ideas to hold people's attention longer, Lee. So initially it comes up as I'm holding, those that are just listening to the audio, my cell phone. Okay, you can see it on the screen. But for those that are maybe driving, that is the biggest contradiction of the last 20 years. It giveth information, access, commerce, all in the palm of our hand with a cell phone, but it completely obliterates on the other side of the coin attention spans. So we're used to scrolling up and down the phone. It used to be our laptops 25, 30 years ago. Now we have this little critter called a cell phone in our hand that is the ultimate enemy of attention, or what I call mind capture. Again, I look at it, we have 9 seconds if we're good. If someone's looking at your social media, it's split seconds, Lee. You and I get this. We've talked about the attention paradigm problem for many, many years. I didn't know 20 years ago, writing the first book, we were hit with 400 to 500 messages per day as far as marketing. And now it's over 5,000. On top of that, AI, which is very real and very public now the last few years, retargeting is at an all-time high. Yes, newsflash, I think our Rumble listeners get this. Your phones do listen to you, they monitor you, and they watch you. It's no longer a theory, it's a reality. So you say things, and all of a sudden an ad pops up in your social media stream, or maybe in a Netflix show, because it's retargeting. So the challenge is daunting. However, what I'd like to share is some good news that I'm not here to talk about excess of fear and doom. It's everywhere you turn. You and I have had private conversations, Lee. How do we, as light workers, hope dealers, positive disruptors, how do we maintain our positivity and lead others when some days it feels like it's hopeless? You and I, we've talked about this. So back to the original 9 second. Couple things is you have to have good questions, Lee. It's making it the interaction about that prospect. If he or she is looking to engage your services or buy your book, or look at maybe supporting you, is they've got to feel like this is about me, specifically me, and not just many. So the language is important. Questions are important. Proof, you and I are very good marketers, Lee. Nothing wrong with that. It's got to be very proof-driven or concentrated with testimonials, where someone goes, I can believe Lee Milteer. You know what? I can relate to what Tony's saying. Or you know what? That sounds just like my current situation or problem. The good news on top of all this, Lee, people are searching for solutions to problems. So I look at it, those that give great value. You have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this. If they're doing well, then they're solving lots of problems. And again, you've got to get the attention first. If you can't get the attention or mind capture out of the gate, best product, service, coaching, book will do no one any good, because they're not even engaged with you out of the gate. So that's a kind of the opening shot of where we're going to go today in this interview. And to me, it's never ending, the challenge of getting that attention.
Okay, so another question you and I have talked about is that, some people think being positive on a consistent basis is actually offensive and controversial.
Oh, yeah.
And this floors me completely, but it is a reality. So I'd like your thoughts on that.
We could do the entire interview in this, but I'll do my best to give a couple key reasons why I say that. Being negative, being average, play it safe, uber conservative is easy to do. A lot of your media is very fear-based. It's negative for a reason. It works. I hate to say it, but it pulls people in. In the old newsrooms, you and I have done a lot of media globally, Lee. If it bleeds, it leads. That has been a standard saying for 40 or 50 years in traditional legacy old world media. It hasn't changed. Why I say it's controversial to be positive is it's not easy. I'm 50 years old. I have a birthday in a few weeks. And I think as Father Time, I'm gifted with years on the mileage of life. I look in the rearview mirror. I could see where people get very hardened and cynical by 30, Lee. By 40, most people have settled in too much. And they go, it's just the way life is. Haven't you heard? It's too good to be true. A lot of people buried their dreams at the age of 30 or 40. Ben Franklin has a classic quote, most people die at 25, but they're not buried until 75. That's from 250 years ago. It's worse now. And again, I'm not trying to be defeatist or scare people listening. I'm trying to awaken when I go on stage or write books or do podcasts or every day I post on social media, trying to wake people up that it's not over. Les Brown says it's not over until I win. And I look at people that beat the odds, that are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, that get a college degree, that write their first novel, that give their first TED Talk. I go, don't tell me it can't be done, because there's clues all around you, proof that people aren't giving up. The challenge is there's all this negativity. I have my hands circling my mind. Imagine there's a microwave around your brain trying to scare you, put doubt in your brain, have you play it safe excessively, where you give up your greatness, Lee. And I've said, damn it, enough. I'm holding the picture here. That's me when I was like 5 or 6 years old. You can tell it's the 70s. Look at those outfits. That is purely the 70s, okay? And I have this picture of me right above my laptop every day to remind me to not take things too seriously, that I have this inner curiosity and I have fun each day. Before we hit record, I mentioned to you, Lee, a couple of ground rules I like to play with. We're going to have fun, and I want to make sure it's valuable for our listeners. Anyone listening right now, thank you. I'm going to thank you right up front for the gift of your time and attention. It's at a premium, the worst of all time as far as people's attention spans. So when I do live or do an interview like this online, I thank the audience first. I've been taught by many mentors and Toastmasters, you never thank an audience. Are you kidding me? If they're looking at you for more than 9, 10 seconds, a minute, 2, 30 minutes like an interview, I want to continually say, hey, look, I value you. Your life clock is valuable. Your time is valuable. I never want to take that for granted. So to me, the last 3 years alone has been tough. People go, well, haven't you seen what's going on? I'm like, yeah, but I'm still alive. The human race still goes on. I have 3 children now in their 20s that I want to give them optimism that's genuine, not lip service, that I believe the life of the planet's going through change. That's the only constant. I don't want to leave the world worse for my children. So whatever gets you to say, you know what, I'm not going to quit. Maybe it's a former partner. Maybe it's an old business associate, a history teacher that said you're a joke. I don't know what it is that can motivate you listening, but turn that frustration, that doubter, into fuel for you, Lee. I have multiple reasons why I do what I do every day. I have them written down in my journal, the 10 reasons why I'm a hope dealer every day. And many times I'll read them throughout the week to remind myself. I use I am statements. I do daily gratitude lists. Here's my gratitude book. I go through many handwritten journals and I write down every day kinesthetically to re-anchor and to resell myself on days when it's tough. Some days I'm like, I got this, but we're all human. And again, at this point in human history, the amount of input coming at us is the highest we've seen in our entire lifespans of human beings. If you teleported someone from 1880 to right now and you took them around a mid-sized city, let's say we took them to Fort Wayne, Indiana. We drove them around for 2 days. We took them to restaurants. We had them look at a cell phone. Likely by the end of day one, they would faint from the mental exhaustion of all the input. By day two, they'd probably think you are nuts to live in a society that's this sped up, this distracting, and this movement of complexity. It's at an all-time high. However, it's what we have to deal with later. We can't change it. We can adapt to it, and we can move forward. So I hope that gives some perspective. But again, I know you have a sophisticated audience, Lee, and especially on Rumble. Rumble, this network we're on right now, is much more of a free-thinking, open-source platform, thank God. We can say God, and we're not censored. We can speak our true feelings without worry that we're going to be edited. You're going to get a strike on your account. So I commend you, again, my friend, for pushing to the front. Great book, by the way, that you're pushing to the front to get the word out and not quit.
Oh yeah, quitting is in my vocabulary. And I don't lose because I eventually win. And if there are headwinds, I expect headwinds. And so I have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and a plan D, and more if necessary. I think you know that I grew up on a farm ranch. My dad was a rancher. There was no quit in our home. There was no quit. That was never entertained for a moment that you quit, because animals have to be fed. The weather has to be dealt with. Crops need whatever they need at that moment. They don't wait.
No.
So, my father was pretty much, he didn't use the word civilian, but he was very strong about, if you're average, you're pathetic. No, he was brutal about average people. He said, if you're not reading, if you're not learning, if you're not growing, if you're not expanding, you're average. And no one in our household is allowed to be average. So,
wow.
I will share with you a very important thing for the parents out there, something he did for me that completely changed the trajectory of my success. Every night at dinner, my father would say two things. What problems did you incur today? And what were your solutions for those problems, and did they work? The second question was, what did you learn today that you can now use in the future for future problems? So now, by the way, this was completely wasted on my brother.
It's not going to hit with everyone.
No, but it completely captured me as a child. And again, my father pretty much treated me as an adult at 7 years old. I mean, he talked to me like an adult. Everything he could teach me, he did. So I have that as an advantage. There were no Barbie dolls and silver spoons in our home whatsoever.
Lee, thank you for sharing that, because that seems to me to be a very lost art. Again, I'm talking in broad brush strokes here, but a lot of the parental skills of the different generations, they're just not there today. And it's not me making social commentary. It's a reality that we weren't taught a lot of these things. Some of us didn't have that parental structure. But you look at it, you're an old soul. You can tell. And that probably is a direct correlation back to your upbringing of what you shared, and how powerful that your father taught you early on and programmed you into a positive solution-based mentality. That is hard to find. So I'm glad you revealed that to us.
Oh, there's no, the other thing that was there, there's no whining. There's no complaining. If there is a problem, okay, let's find 3 solutions. Then we get to vote on which of the 3 solutions we will enact on. Now, my father was self-educated, self-read. His father went to William and Mary and graduated top of his class, and then read for law. So there were some brains there.
Wow, that's a lot.
And passed it the first time. So I just want to remind people that that phone that you speak of is a babysitter. The television is a babysitter. Other people are babysitters. But if you allow other people loose on your children, they're not going to live the life that they really should.
Correct. Good stuff.
So one of the questions I really wanted to talk to you about, because you're very media savvy, is Why do you think the media, I have an opinion, but why do you think the media is so fear-based?
I think the last 3 years alone, it's become very clear that it's no longer independent. It's being controlled by a business complex. They're all very intertwined now. And it's become obviously with the censorship. The cool thing is innovation. We're on Rumble recording this. But Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, they're all useful platforms, but they have limitations because of censorship. So what's happened now, the fear-based, I think, is designed to quell free thinking. Yeah, they don't want people to ask questions. If you go against certain narratives societally-wise, we found out during COVID, you are blacklisted, shamed, and belittled. And there's no apology coming. So I want anyone that's listening right now to think, well, they owe me this and I was right. It doesn't matter. They don't care. So how do you learn the lesson, ask the better question, and move forward to prepare yourself, your family, your business, your employees that are on board with you that say, hey, we encourage free thinking and free speech and assembly to not quit. We did some live events at the height of the pandemic in the Midwest that were very much like rare, like the White Unicorn, where we did our annual event and no one was doing live events in 6-state region. I said, I will be damned if I'm going to let my business be completely shut down. Michigan, where I come from, was one of the most heavily quarantined states besides New York, Washington, and California. Our governor shut us down. So we moved our event and did it in November of 2020. You can't pick a worse time if you look back historically where there was so much fear. The election hadn't been determined yet, the winner. And 3 days after the election, we have an annual event in northern Indiana where 60 people came in late. We did all the protocols. I actually had a waiver signed. I've never done this in the seminar business, that you wouldn't sue me if you got sick. I'm like, we did it. No one got COVID. It was a great event. And I've never thanked an audience more than that time in November of 2020, because that was brave to go to an event. We had people that flew in, drove in, and we had some CEOs there that I was shocked. I thought these are 4 a.m. phone call people that would go to line of fire. If I called them at 4 a.m., they'd get on a plane or they'd wire me money. And I'm not saying I need that, but the loyalty was unmatched. And what it showed me was the hunger for 3 things. And I showed this in a slide. We are allowed freedom of expression, assembly, and speech. That's a big reason why we're here. And that's all I said about politics. And I look at that 3 years later. Here's the reaction I got in real time. Crickets from most of the industry league. Chamber directors, associations, fellow speakers, most did not say a word negative online, which I was waiting for. But I didn't get a lot of attaboys either privately or publicly. It was kind of like, you just did that? Here's the big takeaway 3 years later that I hope everyone can glean a nugget or two. Many times, if you truly believe, you'll have to go against the grain or your entire industry. And you're going to piss them off if you truly believe, and you're going to have to move through the flame. And on the other side, you're forged into steel. That's a Marine Corps saying, a variation. But I thought, I'm not going to look back in history and waddle and hide in my home when you've already pretty much taken away a lot of my liberty as a small, mid-sized business owner, because you look at what they also clearly showed. And I don't mind if this is taped and archived now, it is forever. They pitted small business against large business. It was clear as day. With the PPP dollars, who got to stay open, who didn't. The amount of payoffs, PPP loans, that were forgiven is an atrocity to every taxpayer globally. So that's about as political I've ever gone in an interview. But I had to draw a clear line in the sand. And what was beautiful is my kids were at my events the last few years. My mom was there. They're like, wow, Dad, you actually didn't stand up and shout from the rooftop or storm Capitol buildings, but you made a clear, loud message that you're going to assemble and do a live event. They can watch. You can send the state police outside my event. I don't care. We'll do it legally, right to the bump of the edge line. We'll do it safely, which we were very much closely watched. And I'm not going to cower in fearly. So that's a big case study that I think a lot of folks that are listening on Rumble felt that, or maybe they did similar things like you and I did. I traveled more during the first year and a half of the damn demic, I call it, than I've done the last few years, because I was like, it was cheap. There was plenty of, I had open airplanes to myself. I took my kids on trips of a lifetime, my partner. I'm like, wow, this is kind of great. If everyone's going to stay at home, I'm going to go out and do things. So I look back now and go, wow, the media is, again, when you go back to the original question, they're designed to be that way. And now they're clearly bought and paid for with an agenda that does not encourage different viewpoints or opinions. So how's that?
Yes, and And I think you'll agree that most people don't really understand that the media is owned by 7 companies in the entire world. And those 7 companies have agendas. And the agenda is to be in control and to censor anything that doesn't agree with their agenda. As you know, I've been very out there since the beginning. I was very out there for the cures. If they said, handle all the arrows going in one direction, I went in the other direction. I refused to wear a mask. I was just a pain in the ass to everybody. And
I'm changing on us now, Lee. I love it.
And I'm absolutely always going to be that. I'm going to be a contrarian when it's insanity.
Correct.
And I didn't expect this, but about 45 days ago, I actually got a letter from someone I don't really know. I do know that he crucified me on social media for my disagreeing with everything. And he wrote me about 45 days ago and said, I owe you a deep apology. It turns out, as I've gotten older and seen things, that I was fed a lot of BS. And I believed it because it came from the media. So I apologize. Now, I probably will never get another one of those. But the fact that I got one person actually woke up. And that's the that's the whole point of us having this interview today, is like, if we can just give people hope that in fact, one of the questions I have for you is about why we should deal with the inside of ourselves versus the outside of ourselves. So I'd like for you to talk about how important it is that people follow their inner instincts.
Yeah. I want to go back to a quote. When I first got in the business, it was at a Dan Kennedy event, and you were speaking, and you had said there are no victims, only volunteers. And in the sensitive, overly woke world we're in, people get offended just by reading that. I got it. My interpretation was pretty direct. How life events happen is how you interpret them in your own world. So if something wrong happens, you can complain about the rest of your life and be bitter and resentful, or you can volunteer to say, you know what is the lesson? What do I not want to have repeat? And how can I better myself from that life wisdom experience moment? That is one of my favorite quotes, Lee. I think I've put it in Positive Disruption. One of these has a couple of your quotes.
Yes, this book.
Yeah, so it's a great setup, and credit is due where the question leads. Is a lot of my thinking is, we are taught that this victim mentality and how you perceive things, you don't have any control. You have a lot of control. So back to your point, it's fascinating how much people don't believe in themselves, Lee. I just don't get it. Read me the question again, because I took a little bit of a tangent going on to your quote, but I want to answer specifically your question. Go back to it again if you could.
Well, you often advocate to turn inward to go upward. And what is exactly, I know what you mean, but everybody else wants to know what you mean by that.
The big thing, the way I look at that statement is, I've said this in a lot of media when the book first came out at the height of the pandemic. I said, we have to go inward to go upward. And my hands are gesturing. Inward is your other self, your spiritual side. Napoleon Hill called it the higher power, the other self. It's the same thing. It's energy, God force, your intuition. When you turn in, you get quiet, or if you're walking and you're not worrying, your mind is free, it's an open, fluid state, you get these what I call divine downloads, okay? God winks, I call them. Where if you really say, you know what, I have a lot of solutions internally. I don't always need to look externally. I think there's a balancing act of other teachers, life experience on one side, and then our own internal compass, intuition to navigate that. We have really buried the intuitive side. The whole main goal of these 2 books, Positive Disruption 1 and 2, is someone takes a quote, which is my passion, and then I ask them a question, and I want them to answer it. The book is simple by design. It's not complex, okay? It was the easiest book to write, but the point is, it's about the reader going, what am I grateful for? What's something I should go after? What's a goal I achieved, and what was a lesson? What's a goal I want to pursue, but I'm afraid, and why am I afraid? It's making them self-reflect back, not me preaching at them, or trying to teach them what I think is a good worldview or solution, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, when we get quiet and we go inward, there's tons of solutions, Lee. Something I've done the last few years, I'll tell myself before bed, all right, Lord, I have this question. Help me as I'm sleeping through the night to process an idea or two. Let me wake up with an idea or two. I can't tell you by subconsciously programming and consciously at night, I wake up and have the weirdest dreams, or it might be later that next day in the morning if I'm taking a walk or in between meetings, the idea will hit me. I'm like, oh, I planted the seed to ask my subconscious to go to work. This is nothing new, Lee. A lot of the great religious traditions talk about it, but in the digital world where everyone's looking at their phone for their salvation, they look to this to be their salvation. They forget a lot of time to go in for the answers. And that to me is something that's going to get harder and harder if people don't deliberately stop, question, and go, wow, I'm looking all outside for the answer, when many times if I have faith in myself, it's right here internally. So that's what I mean.
So I'm sure you're familiar with the book, Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins.
Hold that thought. It's sitting on the top of one of my stacks.
Okay, fantastic. And we hadn't planned this. So I interviewed, this is one of my favorite books. I tell all my personal coaching clients they have to read this book, and 90% of them say right off the bat, oh, dear God, this is hard. And I said, yes, it is hard. But if you can get it, you will zoom into a new realm of success you cannot imagine because of understanding this particular, what is power and what is force. So I interviewed this gal last week about the book, and these are her words. She said, if people could start to, instead of access information on the outside of, do I want this or that, to actually start judging your own energy field. And then these are her words. She said, her words are to herself, like if she were to pick up your book, is this yummy feeling or yucky feeling?
Wow.
And I mean, that's hilarious. I don't even use those words very yummy, very often. Yucky either. I'm much more, clearer in my words, but
yeah.
It's absolutely true about the fact that if we actually will slow down our process and ask ourselves, if someone asks us to like joint venture with them about something, and we've done our due diligence, we're still on the fence, we're not quite sure what we want to do. But if we actually ask ourselves, when I think about this, it fulfills me, uplifts me, makes me feel good, that's a yes. The body's saying yes. If it makes me feel dread, fear, worry, not sure, that's the body saying no. Now, I use all kinds of things. I use muscle testing. I use kinesiology. But the thing that I always know is I use something called the head, heart, gut connection. And all three things have to check. My head has to agree, my heart has to agree, but the most important thing is my gut has to agree. And so, because I've done all these programs on intuition, and everything that we're really saying, folks, is the phone is a fabulous tool until it becomes a crutch. When it becomes a crutch and then it's telling you what to do, other people's opinion are more important than yours. And I have times in my life that I have listened to the outside world. It's cost me in money, time, face, and everything possible. I have done things that I've allowed people to talk me into that somehow inside I knew wasn't really the greatest thing for me to do, but I didn't really have a plan B for myself. I abdicated my own sovereignty. And this is what
That's big. That's big what you just said.
Yes. And so this is really what we're talking about, Tony, is that you and I, through trial and error, have learned not to advocate our freedom, our choices, just because this is the fad or everybody's going down in this direction. Now, my father always used to say to me, if the masses are going in one direction, I should be going completely in the other direction. And
Yeah.
and that has served me well. He said people run towards emergencies. He said you got to listen to your inner gut. Does your inner gut need you to be there to save someone or get the heck out of Dodge? That's a question you ask yourself. So believe me, my father was a very complicated man, but one of the great things about him was his incredible devotion to inner truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can see a byproduct of that with how your life has turned out in your body of work and knowledge and teaching, Lee, is that you've learned a lot from your father. And it's the stories you tell, we're seeing more of a foundation. You and I are friends and colleagues, but I get more of a foundation of where this comes from. And you can learn that. Some people have the worst upbringings and they don't want to do that. Like Tony Robbins used to talk about his stepfather and his mom being alcoholic. He said it's the best thing that ever happened to him. However, there are some that have good parental structure and foundation that you want to talk about and celebrate more because it's rare, or at least it's not talked about in the media because the world's coming to an end. No, it's not. Life goes on. I want to add a little bit to that, something that I've always told my children, and this came true live at my boot camp last year up in northern Michigan. I always told them three things, and it's funny now they're all in their 20s, my son Braden. And I said, think for yourself and question everything. I've taught them since they were little kids up till their 20s now as young adults. We were in Traverse City last fall at my event, and he was there. He came up to the boot camp and he sat at the front table. I was like, this is an honor to have your children watch what you do because they have all sorts of interpretations about what you do as a writer and a speaker. And he sat there. I said, yeah, I always tell everybody, think for yourself. And he from the side of the front room, he goes, and question everything, Dad. And the whole crowd started laughing. I said, I can't have a better testimonial in a heart-wrenching moment than my son completing what I said to him as a small child in front of my top clients. And it wasn't a setup. It was just a very natural father-son cool moment where that vulnerability was like proven right there. And a lot of what I'm seeing now, maybe this is the gift of aging. I almost want to get more simple with my life, Lee. I know there's things I have to be if a client needs me to do that are complex and require my mastery and my skill set. But a lot of things now I'm really unlearning and getting more simple about things. Buckminster Fuller talks a lot about that. You're in the process of unlearning. And I get it now. And I look at that and say, I don't need to have 150 steps. Give me three main things that I should focus on to get done. And the other steps will come to completion. The how-to will fold into it. So a lot of what I teach in my writing, people go, it's pretty simple. And I go, yeah, that's who I am. But they're like, a lot of times it works. And I don't need attaboys and validations. I have my own internal reasons why I do what I do, Lee. However, when you get those thank you letters or those apology letters, it's a pleasant surprise on the journey. And again, I'm not out to tell everyone how to live their life. I'm here to share ideas that I know work. And they pick and choose in their life experience what works for them, where it meets them at that marker in time. I've had coaches and gurus that are so out of alignment with me that 10 years later, I understand their books better. Or I go to their seminar, I watch a YouTube video, and it clearly resonates at an equal or better vibrational level than I used to get it when I was 30 or 40. So it's fun. I have lots of books like you do. I'm looking at your awesome bookshelf. I go back and reread certain books all the time. It's funny to watch the notes that I put in where I was at. I date a lot of my notes, like what day did this occur, what year, and look at the growth or how I've outgrown things that don't serve me anymore. So I just think that what we're doing right now, it's important for business. Don't be fooled. You and I love entrepreneurship and helping a lot of businesses, but a lot of the soul work to me is becoming more and more important because the world's getting darker by design to try to scare people if we allow it. So someone's driving on the treadmill, if you allow it, you have a choice still. And that's the whole warning, the siren call right now, the last few years is for people to get their sovereignty back, start questioning and not be afraid. If we wake up in mass, that's what scares the traditional structures, Lee, is if we start to awaken faster and faster, and we go, why are we always doing that? Why are we being taxed on that? Why are we doing that with our bodies? And we start to have a rebellion of numbers. game over. And I'm not advocating violence. Let it be very clear in the digital space, because everything's taped and monitored. Newsflash, they monitor everything. The peaceful revolution involves millions of people awakening. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you so much for saying that. So before we go today, because I know you have a gig coming up, so talk about your book a little bit. I mean, it's super simple. I love your book. I can pick up it in any moment. Actually, I kind of say, what message do I need right now? And then just open it up. Yeah. And oh, you'll love this. The number one reason people fail in life is because they listen to their friends, family, and neighbors instead of their own intuition.
Well, right there. I'm glad we're recording this for two reasons now. So talk about the books, I guess.
Yes, let's talk about the books.
Pretty simple. There's volume 1. This is the pandemic book. And there's volume 2. Really what it is, it's two passions of mine. I love, obviously, personal development. That's how I met you many years back. And I love the power of a quote. Many times the written word doesn't have power until we put meaning into it in the words. And I've been posting quotes for 15, 16 years all over social media. And when the pandemic hit, I thought, I've always wanted to write a book on quotes, along with some gratitude. The point I was at in my life in June of 2020 was just another interesting point of like, where are you going to go with it? Like a fork in the road, Tony. And I said, you know what, let's channel this 2 or 3 months where I'm off the road, the foreseeable future, and let's get this book done. So we wrote that book quickly, simple by design, but deep in value for the reader. We put it out in November of 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And it was interesting because I thought, this is kind of contrarian. Let's do it. like your dad said, everyone's going this way. Let's do this. And I remember certain television shows and many podcasters that were brave enough to bring me on. I just said, thank you again, because people think I'm insane. I had t-shirts made that say Hope Dealer. I still sell a lot of Hope Dealer t-shirts.
I almost wore that today.
And people go, are you crazy? I'm like, why not? Someone's got to do it. And I'll hold up here. I do postcards. There's me with a Hope Dealer shirt on holding the book. But I'll mail those out to people and say, hey, keep being a Hope Dealer for others. And here's the thing. I didn't coin that. Other people use the term. But you know what? I wanted something loud and directly opposite of all the media noise. So people go, what is that? And it got us a lot of attention because it almost seemed to be a little cocky. And people went, that's a little bold and that's naive. That's not adult. I say, you know what? In my soul, remember that picture of me? I refuse to ever fully grow up and buy your bullshit. And I will, till I take my last breath, question power, laugh at power sometimes, and just act like a little kid because I can. I'm in the United States of America and I can do what I want. You can try to tell me what I can and can't do. That doesn't mean I don't break laws. I understand codes and rules, but I'm going to push that thing right to the edge. And I had more people that say, gosh, thank you so much. This book is helping me. I love your quotes. You have no idea how many people I share this with every day. Again, that's the bonus. I do it because I love people. I love positivity. I don't want that little 7-year-old that saw life as this opportunity and joy to get crushed, to be snuffed out at 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever age. And I give people permission to get back to their inner genius, that little child that believed the world had good things and that they could do things. And that's the other power of social media. Let's pivot here. You have YouTube, you have TikTok, Rumble. You can see success now in real time. It's what you focus on, Lee. So a lot of the book is advocating, focus on what's going right in your life, what's good with the world, and not all the trash being forced on you unless you block it or move away from it. So it's deliberately hijacking your mind for good. And I'll stick to that.
So tell everybody how they can find you.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's simple. They just go to my main webpage, which is mindcapturegroup.com. Mindcapturegroup.com. Facebook, it's easy, just Mind Capture. So I know we're wrapping up, but Lee, let me end on thanking you for this new venture of going to Rumble. The Blonde Warrior is awesome. And I definitely want to get you on. I'll do a live invitation here to our online program to get you interviewed in the fall. So my invitation has now been extended back to you.
Well, thank you so much. It's always fun to be with you. And I love speaking at your event. I love what you stand for. I love your refreshing honesty. So let's have you back on in the very near future. How about that?
Let's do it, my friend.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you, Tony, so much for that. And folks, remember that at the very bottom, there are links that you can like, you can comment, and you can share. And we would be so grateful if you do that here on the Blonde Warrior Network show. I am very grateful to be here, and I hope to see you soon. And don't forget, everybody, a gift from me it's called 5typesofenergy.com, FIVE typesofenergy.com. It's a free video series talking about mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial energy. Each video is only 5 minutes long. You sign up for this, a video will come once a day. It will give you some great information about how you're using your currency every single day. So thank you, everybody. I'll see you next week.